The NFL draft is next week. We are almost there, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got to get our 2026 Dynasty rookie My Guys in before the draft so that when these guys ultimately end up hitting, we look like geniuses for picking them before the draft. Now, obviously, not all these guys are going to hit. In terms of the My Guy, how we're going to do this is we're going to draft My Guy. So we're going to go back and forth drafting My Guys. Obviously, when one person drafts a My Guy, the other person cannot do it. The only person I think that's going to be off limits this year is Jeremiah Love. Obviously, flag planting Jeremiah Love would be a very lazy take, but I think pretty much everybody outside of that is fair game.
Don't you dare take Jeremiah. I'm kidding.
I mean, if I want to get my hit rate up, so I figured we play rock paper scissors to pick first. So
okay,
ready?
Yep.
You know how to do this?
Yeah. Yep.
Rock paper scissors shoot. Dang it.
All right, I'll keep this one short and sweet. We'll take Omar Cooper. Omar Cooper. We talked about plenty on this channel. I just want to reestablish and tell you guys. Do you think we can probably go back and find the clip in the late end of the season last year where we called Omar Cooper pretty much before anyone else even knew who he was. I love Omar Cooper. Like, Elijah Surratt may be drafted over Omar Cooper. That's very possible. He's not in this mock draft. And to be completely honest, if an NFL team took a shot on Cooper over Surratt and he was drafted ahead of Surratt, I would not be shocked in any way because I think he's that good and I do think he's more athletically gifted.
Cooper.
I think he is incredibly talented. I think he has really, really good hands. He's much faster and he doesn't have the contested catch ability that Elijah Surratt does down the line, but he's kind of a do-it-all wide receiver that can be a deep threat. They can run him out of the slot. They do a lot of things with Omar Cooper there. So I think there are a good number of NFL teams that would find that a bit more valuable. He could go in the third. There's a good chance he goes in the second, honestly. When Elijah Surratt was the one that was kind of the talk of the town and people were like, he might have, early second round upside. And no one cared about Omar Cooper until really after the college football championship and scouts started really liking him. He obviously tested really well. He's got a ton of athletic upside. I don't think I have to exhaust how we feel about Omar Cooper at this point anymore. He, again, has fluctuated between that green tier and the yellow tier and the bakery. He's either at the top of that yellow tier over guys like Concepcion and Boston, always consistently below Jordan Tyson, a guy who is gone from being like getting some late first round buzz to now pretty much solidly in the first round consistently. He's going to be a first round pick in the NFL draft this year. He's a guy, again, that we're very proud of, very excited to see where he ends up going. Fingers crossed it's not the Jets, though I will say if he does go to a place like the Jets in the middle of the first round, he's going to end up probably falling to the late first of rookie drafts, and at that point he'll probably be a decent investment, honestly. But regardless, excited to see what happens on draft night and definitely expecting him to get solid day one draft capital.
Okay, I'm going to have to start hedging here because you took my guy, and you're probably going to take my next guy too, so some of our shared guys. But I want to get Mekhi Lemon in here. Mekhi Lemon has been my wide receiver one in this class, my favorite wide receiver since day one. Maybe not always ranked as, we've had all three of these guys in the same tier. We had Tyson at the top of the tier, but we had Lemon in the same tier. From day one, Mekhi Lemon has been my favorite wide receiver in this class. He's probably not going to be the highest wide receiver drafted off the board. In fact, I think there's a decent chance he's the third wide receiver drafted off the board here. But there's a lot that goes into me liking Mekhi Lemon. Look no further than, his tape. Historically, we are analytics guys. I am an analytics guy. I'm a data scientist. So I just gravitate more towards numbers, analytics, trying to find trends in data, things like that, statistical analysis. With Lemon, I don't know if I've liked a guy's tape as much as I've liked Lemon's since I've been doing this. And part of it is just the way he plays. And, I've mentioned this before, but I had the privilege of watching the entire Iowa USC game from this last year, all live, and just got to watch Mekhi Lemon absolutely dice up the Hawkeyes. And that was probably when it was solidified for me, because I already loved Lemon before that. But once I was watching that game and I was just thinking, this dude is going to be an absolute killer in fantasy football. And I stand by that. I think Tate's going to be a great wide receiver. I think Tyson's going to be a great wide receiver. I think Cooper obviously is going to be a great wide receiver. But Makai Lemon is my favorite. There's a lot I like about him. I think his ball skills are some of the best that we've seen of any of the last 3 or 4 classes. I think Lemon and Tate, you could say that both about. But Lemon as well, he doesn't Carnell Tate, everybody kind of references his drop rate. Makai Lemon is very, very good at the catch point as well. It's worth noting. He's an elite separator. All of his separation statistics are very good. We obviously got a chance to take a look at his reception perception profile, and everything grades out great for Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon obviously won the Biletnikoff as well. Whether or not it should have been Jeremiah Smith is a completely separate discussion, but when you're looking again at his reception perception and his analytics, 75th percentile against man coverage, 79th against zone. That's a pretty important one for a guy like Lemon, who a lot of people assume will play out of the slot in the NFL. 60th against press coverage, which is low, but everybody kind of understands that is something that Makai Lemon, who could be classified as slightly undersized, is going to struggle with in the NFL. It's going to be largely dependent on if he goes to an offense that exaggerates his strengths and also keeps him out of situations where he's going to get taken advantage of. I think that he will go somewhere like that. He's been mocked to the Rams a lot. But this guy, a lot of people want to classify as just a slot, and I don't necessarily think that he is just that. He took 68.5% of his snaps from the slot at USC. He was outside 28% of the time, and he does fine there. Again, he does well against man coverage as well. I think that he is more versatile than people give him credit for. And so because of that, I think he's going to be somebody that finds an NFL field, finds a spot in an NFL field immediately. And I think that he's going to, from a fantasy football perspective, be the type of wide receiver that we've seen come into the NFL recently and immediately produce from a fantasy perspective because of how many targets you get, because of how you're utilized. Makai Lemon really is a guy that I think can do it all in the NFL. Do I think he is a Justin Jefferson? No, but people say Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that's his ceiling comp, obviously. Regardless, I think what you're looking at is a guy who's going to be very high target, and in PPR dynasty leagues, that's what you're looking for from a production upside standpoint, is a guy who's going to get those targets, who's going to be able to be good against zone coverage, be good against man coverage, and hopefully not be in press coverage situations a whole lot. But when he is, again, if you watch any of his downfield work this year on his film, the dude can catch the ball with anybody on him. Watch his film and tell me that he can't. So a lot of people have been worried about the size-speed combination. I'm not. He is the type of receiver that works in today's NFL offense, and I think he's going to be no different than any of the other wide receivers of this caliber, wide receiver one in the bakery, by the way, in this year so far. He's going to be no different than the guys we've seen just like this that have come out the last couple of years. Makai Lemon has been a flag plant. I've flag planted him on other videos. He is the number one my guy in this class. If Lemon doesn't hit, I'm going to be in shambles, but I think he's going to hit.
This next flag plant for me is basically going to be a let's tell everybody to take a chill pill on this guy and stop trying to push him too far down boards, because in our opinion, Jonah Coleman is still a very good analytical prospect, a very solid analytical prospect. Look, we're not going to have very many running back flag plants today, but Jonah Coleman would be one of the few where we would say we are very confident more than the rest of the class, not named Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, that Jonah Coleman is going to be able to hold some respectable value in this class especially. For whatever reason, it started to be like a cool thing to fade Coleman and say that he sucks and say that he's not as good as 25-year-old Seth McGowan and Terrion Stewart and Damon Claiborne. Like, come on, guys. It's not that hard to be the running back 3 in this class. And Jonah Coleman is a solid prospect who has great size. He can take down a 3. He can take on a 3-down workload. And we're being very conservative with this draft capital as well. Like, do I think he's going to go in the second? No. Do I think he can go day 2? Absolutely. Guess what? If he doesn't go day 2, he still remains in that yellow tier with Jadarian Price if he gets 4th round draft capital. You have to give him like late 4th round draft capital for him to fall into that tier with Nick Singleton and Emmett Johnson and Mike Washington and Katron Allen, all of which a lot of people like quite a bit. I think we need to chill out a little bit with Coleman and just, again, kind of get back to the basics and stop nitpicking, especially in this running back class. Let's stop nitpicking a little bit with a guy like Coleman, who already is going to be up there in terms of like the okay shots that you want to take at the running back position. Whereas beyond that, analytically with those tiers below him, it just gets really, really, really bad. Like if you end up getting a decent shot on Coleman after he's drafted in the late 3rd round, early 4th round in the NFL draft, if he falls to the 2nd round in your dynasty rookie drafts in this class, that's absolutely a shot that you want to take on. It's very affordable. It's very nice. It's a good shot to take. He's a very well-rounded prospect. He's not going to wow you in terms of film. He doesn't have crazy explosion. He's just very good at everything. He's definitely not a one-trick pony like a lot of these guys ranked below him are. So let's give him a little bit of a break. I would definitely take him over the 25-year-old running back prospects going into the draft. I'll just say that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you Eli Heidenreich from I was not going to, I thought you were going to take him there. I'm happy to get him here. Welcome to the team, Eli.
I almost took him.
He's my guy.
Just your guy.
He is. We're draft. That's why we're doing it this way.
Right,
you could have taken him, Nate. You could have taken him. He's mine. I got him before Nate did. You got the first pick in the draft. You had 2 opportunities. You passed on him twice. He's my guy. And you know what?
I gave you to him. I gave him to you. I gave you to him.
That I honestly, I think with Heidenreich, when you've been looking at like domain rookie mock drafts, you've seen him like pushed up to the second. Part of me in the inside's been like, but at the same time, Heidenreich, do remember, we have been in on this guy for a while.
Long time.
For a while. We brought him to you obviously early in the process saying, hey, this guy's a dog. Not going to say anything about who he reminds you of. We're not going to say anything. He doesn't remind us of anybody. We've never said that. We've never said he reminds us of anybody. You said it, not us. Didn't say anything.
But this tweet said something.
Well, no. We didn't put that up there.
No, we didn't.
But watch his film. Very interesting, isn't it? Obviously, we've talked about Heidenreich a lot on these videos, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. But I will say, running back, wide receiver, what's he going to play at the next level? I would guess it's going to be running back, but I'm not necessarily sure. He grades out as the running back 8 in the bakery this year with 6th-round draft capital. We've talked about his film as much from a route running perspective. I think he's a great route runner. I was disappointed we didn't get a reception perception profile on Eli Heidenreich here, because really he was playing receiver most of the time, and even when he's in the backfield, he's playing a receiving running back role. I think he's athletic. Obviously, the size is a concern. I think this is the main thing for Eli Heidenreich. And this is really like, I don't care if I miss on this one. He's a deep, deep, deep sleeper, a guy who's most likely going to go anywhere from the 5th to 7th round of the NFL draft. I don't think he's going to go anywhere higher. If he does, it will be a miracle. But in terms of his skill set as a receiver, I do think he could have a role in an NFL offense. I think he's twitchy enough, athletic enough to have a role in an NFL offense. I think he's a good enough pass catcher to have a role in an NFL offense. And so Heidenreich has been a guy that we have been on since day one. You did not hear Eli Heidenreich's name in the community before you heard it from Nathan and I. Fact, because I checked before we put it out there because I wanted to make sure. And that doesn't change today. If Heidenreich hits, we're gonna have had it first, and if he doesn't hit, we didn't ever say anything about him. We didn't ever talk about him. Who is Eli Heidenreich? No, I'm riding the Heidenreich train no matter what happens. So I love this guy. If you've watched his film, you watched him play, you know that there's a lot of anomalies with where he was lined up in the offense, but you also know that this dude has some serious potential. Obviously, in my opinion, if he can get past the BMI concerns, the size concerns, watch out for Eli Heidenreich.
I'd watch out for Eli Stowers as well. This is someone who I think has stood the test of time in terms of guys that we really, really liked in the early portion of our prospect analysis in the early offseason. I remember watching a good number of Vanderbilt games this year, obviously with Pavia. They were an exciting team to watch in the SEC, and Stowers was a big reason for that. He was a really solid target for that offense and showed a lot of just overall athleticism, ability to work the intermediate areas of the field really well, a lot of physicality, after catch ability, great hands, just a pass catcher at the tight end position that is, I wouldn't say rare, because we're seeing a lot of high-end, very talented pass catchers at the tight end position over the last few years, but the greater body of work that we see from tight ends overall every single season is a lot of projects still. And Eli Stowers, in my opinion, from the get-go is not a project, and I think he's going to get some pretty solid NFL investment once we get to the draft here. Will he go first round? I don't know. If he does go first round, it would be late first round. I'd probably still bet on early second. Again, I've been much higher on Stowers than consensus. I remember the conversation was like, it's Sadiq and then nobody else. And I was like, it's Sadiq. a pretty decent gap, but then Stowers, and he could move up. And Stowers has moved up. He's tested very well. There's been talk about Eli Stowers potentially making a transition to wide receiver, or teams wanting him to potentially do that. I personally don't see it there when you're talking about him moving to being an exclusive wide receiver. I think his build is perfect for a tight end. I think he can be a receiving primary tight end. Who, again, he's essentially a wide receiver with the tight end label. I think that makes sense for a lot of teams to do that. I think we've seen that with multiple teams. And I think he's very capable as a blocker as well. So keep an eye on Stowers. Don't sleep on him, especially in this class. If he gets like early second round draft capital, where I think he's going to go, he's going to be one of the better shots that you're going to want to take on in this class in 2026, probably in the late first round of your rookie drafts to the early second. And again, what we've seen historically is that tight ends generally who get solid draft capital, even some of the day 3 guys who go in really wide open situations that have opportunities to take over and get a lot of opportunity there from the get-go. See Aranda Gadsden, who we really liked his film as a prospect before he got really late draft capital.
Yep.
I think Stowers, you could see him end up being in the same situation as well, where he just maintains his value really well year over year in the early part of his career.
All right. You knew we weren't going to make it out of here without both Indiana wide receivers on here. I'm going to take Elijah Surratt here. I understand. Like, I have.
Would you rather the Colts get Elijah Surratt in the second round or D'Angelo Pons?
Both. You can't make me choose.
I say we take Pons, trade Kenny Moore, and then get Surratt.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I would love for the Colts to have Surratt, and the reason for this is because obviously we have one of the best man coverage beaters in Alec Pierce. Well, when you're talking about beating zone coverage, Elijah Surratt does that better than almost anybody in this class. Now, here's the problem with Surratt, and we have been very, very upfront about Surratt's red flags this whole entire process. But I think the reason I'm able to kind of plant my flag and say I'm in on Surratt now is because while for a while there after the national championship he was being really bumped up, I see him in mock drafts go more in the second round than anything now. And look, the fact of the matter is I'm an analytics guy, and I very rarely am going to plant my flag on a guy whose analytics aren't very good. Because when you're looking at Surratt when he has second round draft capital, I mean, his bakery score is just not super good. He's just not in a super good tier with super good hit rates. When you're looking, he's technically a poor separator according to the bakery and according to reception perception here because he doesn't separate well versus man coverage at all, 17th percentile there. Press coverage also 14%, which is confusing if you watch Surratt because you know that dude caught every back shoulder thrown his way because he is incredible at the catch point. He has incredible ball skills. He has incredible hands. But those are all things that I think can help to compensate for Elijah Surratt's, shortcomings here. Obviously, the route running and separation versus man coverage is a shortcoming. But with Surratt, the one thing that you have to consider is if he were to come in and be like a Keenan Allen type guy in the NFL, where you are a big slot, zone-beating guy, can make guys miss after the catch, which Elijah Surratt after the catch is much better than the average guy with this type of build and this type of profile. He can make defenders miss, both with his agility and his size. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, right? So he can do that. He's a red zone threat. He's really, really good at contested catch. And so while he has his limitations, if he goes to a spot in the NFL draft where, again, this is definitely more of a landing spot dependent, my guy, with Elijah Surratt. If he goes somewhere where he's not utilized correctly, I think he could be a bum. I really do. And I love Elijah Surratt so much. There's signed football from Elijah Surratt right over there. But at the same time, I think that if he were to go to the right spot and somebody figure out like, okay, this guy is basically just like Keenan Allen light, I think he could be legit good in the NFL. And also, when you're talking about Elijah Surratt, I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that he's just a very smart football player. He's a smart football player and a smart person. When you listen to he interviewed very well at the Combine. That shouldn't surprise anybody. Go listen to one of his press conferences. He's an intelligent dude. He's got a great work ethic as well. And he was responsible for two of the two best football seasons in Indiana football history with two different quarterbacks in Curtis Rourke and Fernando Mendoza. And so, is it a homer pick? Probably. But if he were genuinely still going at the late into the first and most Dynasty rookie mock drafts, I probably wouldn't be planting my flag here from a price standpoint because I don't think it's a good price. But at the point where I can get him for a second round pick this year, which is essentially worthless in a class this week, I like Elijah Surratt a lot at that price. I'm willing to bet that of all the wide receivers that are going to be going in that range, when you're talking about guys like Jeremy Bernard, when you're talking about guys like Chris Brazzell, even somewhat of Chris Bell, there's going to Ted Hurst, Bryce Lance, Jacoby Lane, all going to be down there. I like Surratt more than them. I do. Again, Analytics are great. I love them. It's my language. They're not everything to me. This is one where, again, I think that Elijah Surratt could be a really big difference maker in the NFL, and I think fantasy production could follow. Do I think he's going to be a perennial wide receiver 2? Probably not. But do I think he could be like a wide receiver 3 or 4? I think he could in fantasy football. I genuinely think in the right situation he could. Elijah Surratt, I love him to death. I couldn't not put him on here as my guy.
I think a lot of people in the early part of the offseason like to comp him to a poor man's Mike Evans, and now it's a poor man's Keenan Allen. I would say poor man's Michael Pittman, honestly. I think he screams Michael Pittman. And that, again, in some situations is really, really, really good. I mean, Pittman was a borderline wide receiver 1 for a couple of years there with his high target volume.
Pittman's a better route runner.
He is a better route runner, but he's about the same size. Mm-hmm. He's slow. He doesn't have breakaway speed. Good in contested catch situations. Surratt can be great in contested catch situations. Better, yeah. So just keep that in mind wherever he ends up landing. Probably day 2 of the NFL draft. I would wager second round. Next guy, I'll go with a wide receiver here. Again, this is the strength of the class, so you're going to get a lot of wide receivers in this video. Denzel Boston for me, similar to Stowers. Those two guys are kind of the guys that I just have really gravitated towards since the beginning, not because they are the cream of the crop or the best of the best in this class. Avery and I generally like to gravitate towards the guys that not everybody else that is gravitating towards at the top. Because again, we can all gravitate towards Jeremiah Love and Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. That's easy. Well, not Jordan Tyson necessarily.
No.
But with Denzel Boston, I do think, again, I just kind of want to reinforce here, guys, like, let's not underestimate his ability as a route runner. I was genuinely, for a guy who liked Denzel Boston a lot and understood what his potential shortcomings could be, and that really is lack of speed. He has decent long speed, but he doesn't have like crazy explosiveness. His route running capability and his success rates across the board in man and zone and press are really, really nice. Like next to Mekhi Lemon, who I think was the biggest reception perception winner when it came to his, again, route running analytics, I think Denzel Boston was third. It was right next to Lemon and Casey Concepcion. I think, to me, that raised his floor quite a bit. In my opinion, I think a lot of people kind of see a guy like Denzel Boston. They're like, oh, he's another one of those late first guys who's totally unproven. He's going to be the next, Matthew Golden. I don't see it that way. Denzel Boston was actually productive. Denzel Boston was actually one of the better wide receivers in college football last year. Like, legitimately, he was. And oh, by the way, he was hurt, and he still was really good in really significant stretches last season. I watched a good bit of Washington's games. I was very curious to see, again, what I thought about him just when you're looking at, like, the flow of a game speed type stuff. How do I feel about Boston? Is he their go-to? And on third downs, gotta have it plays. Boston is their go-to every single time. Like, he is their red zone target when they have a gotta have it play. He is their guy that they take a shot with down the field on the outside. He can work the intermediate parts of the field. He's not just a big, slow, deep threat that can't separate but can win contested catches. He can do more than you would think. And again, I think the reason that a lot of people think this about Denzel Boston in a negative light is just because that's what they've been told. But when we actually look at the analytics, when we actually look at his route running, when we actually watch a good bit of his film, again, I'm not saying that he's a flawless prospect. There's a reason that he's the wide receiver 6 in the bakery, and there's a reason that he's the wide receiver 6 for us in this class. I don't think he has the ceiling of Omar Cooper and Casey Concepcion. I think that he's probably going to be like 100 to 120 target guy max in the NFL, unless he ended up turning into a guy like Mike Evans or something. I don't think he has that speed. So again, I fully understand the shortcomings of Denzel Boston. I'm just saying, I think the value at which you're going to get him for a guy who is, in my opinion, likely to go in the late first, if not the very early second, because that's where he's consistently mocked in every single mock that we've seen since the beginning of the season, and yet nobody likes talking about him whatsoever. Like, I'll take a real solid shot on that. I like that a lot.
Okay, last my guy here. I'm going to go, surprisingly enough, with Casey Concepcion. I just can't get away from his analytics. Like, this is where I've kind of picked on film with Heidenreich. I've picked on film with Lemon. I've picked on film with Surratt. The analytical guy in me gravitates most towards Casey Concepcion in terms of like a guy where his price does not match his analytical profile. That's where I'm at right now with KC. Because, again, the reception report honestly changed a lot for me. I thought his film was good. I didn't necessarily watch his film and I was like, okay, this guy is an absolute freaking dog. He's popping off the screen. He's going to be a crazy NFL prospect. I didn't really think that. I thought it was good, and I also thought there were a lot of things he could have improved upon. I still think that's true. But his route running charts were insane. I mean, success rate versus all different types of coverage here. 92nd percentile against man, 81st against zone, 87th against press. That's elite. And kind of I've already talked about this in depth in the wide receiver video, so I won't talk about it too much. Basically, guys with that level of prospect profile usually go much higher than Casey Concepcion is projected to go in the NFL draft and in Dynasty rookie drafts. And I like Omar Cooper, too, a lot. Omar Cooper would have been my guy if you didn't pick him. But the other guy that's pretty much right there in his range is Casey Concepcion. Fact of the matter is, I like both of these guys a lot. Do I like them for 106, 107 prices? Probably not. I wish this were a stronger class because you would be getting them at the 110 to the 112 normally, and that's a perfect price for these guys.
And the only way those guys are falling to that range in this class is if one of them gets a really bad landing spot.
They're not going to. They're not going to. And KC, I mean, I will pump the KC hype. I was not as high on him at the beginning of the process. His analytics, as they've continued to come in, he got analytically better at the combine and in the bakery profile, obviously, and then the reception profile as well.
What do you think happens to KC if he goes to San Fran?
I think he would absolutely light it up. And I also think
me too.
I think he would be, I don't know, I think you'd be talking about him occasionally going in the top 4, but consistently going in the top 5.
Yeah, I think the upside.
It would be disgusting.
I think the potential Dynasty rookie draft capital upside of a guy like KC is one of the highest in this class of the non-core, premium prospects.
And that's part of the reason I'm willing to call him my guy this year, because I think he's going to go late enough in the NFL draft to where a team that is a contender is going to be able to grab him, and he's going to just.
And I'm not so sure about that with Cooper. He'll probably go mid.
The Jets are really killing me right now.
I know that
really killing me.
That's what I'm saying. That's right. When you get to that range, like if you remember BTJ versus Worthy, that's the type of thing that I see. Is like, oh man, if Cooper goes in the middle of the first to a landing spot that everyone hates, and Concepcion gets a sexy landing spot to San Francisco, everybody's going to.
And Concepcion, I think, is as good of a prospect as Omar Cooper.
Analytically he is. So it would be
I like Cooper's tape better, just being honest. But still, this is a guy that is an elite separator. Obviously, a hybrid guy. The size was a concern going into the combine. He was fine, and he ran a 4.46, and he's projected in the first round. I just don't see a lot of holes in his profile, to be honest with you. I think he's a pretty high floor player. And that's again, honestly, why I like Casey Concepcion. So again, the analytics guy, this is a pure analytics pick for me. I didn't necessarily see it on his film like other people do, but I see it in his analytics, and his analytics make me want to draft him everywhere. And so because of that, he'll be my guy. He'll be my last my guy. And then I think we need to...
Honorable mention.
What I was going to do, I mean, we'll see if we're thinking the same thing here,
okay, cool.
is I was going to do a my guy sponsorship. Where,
sweet. Okay.
And we were just going to say that we are not out on Jordan Tyson.
Dude, that's so cute.
I know.
I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's literally, I was like... because we both, like, we're going to
I almost picked him, and then I was like, we'll wait.
I know.
Well,
I had that in mind the whole time.
Well, I'll let you take it then.
Okay, I'll just. Well, yeah. Well, you're smart though. You're a smart guy.
Yeah. You just tag my approval on whatever he says.
So with Tyson, I think the reason that we need to kind of co-sponsor, and could you put both of us on the screen for this? We both came up with this. I think the reason that we kind of need to co-sponsor this is because. We had Tyson early on as like a guy that we thought could be the highest wide receiver drafter off the board.
We had him wide receiver 1. Early on.
Technically, we had them all in the same tier, which we always have. So wide receiver 1 through 3. However, we said Tyson may have the highest ceiling out of anybody. I still think he could, actually. And, we really kind of got beat up for it. I've always liked Lemon more than I like Tyson, but I can acknowledge I think Tyson's ceiling is very high as a route runner and as a playmaker in the NFL. And, the negative press with Jordan Tyson has just kind of beat his value to a pulp so far in Dynasty, whereas he's just continued to fall and fall.
And to a point where people have been trying to press us to rank Omar Cooper over Tyson, and that's where we put our foot down.
No, well, and actually, multiple tweets that I've seen on Twitter that basically have emphasized as much, where they're saying it's not a hot take to put Jordan Tyson behind Omar Cooper. I love Omar Cooper Jr. I think it's a hot take to put Jordan Tyson behind Omar Cooper Jr.
It is.
And the Peter Schrager mock draft made me feel quite a bit better about us liking Jordan Tyson as much as we have pretty much this entire process. Obviously, the hamstrings are a concern. The injuries are a concern. But that right there tells you what NFL teams, I think think about Jordan Tyson.
The insider reports, not just Schrager, but also I think Rap Sheet as well. Like they said, the thing that they said with the report about Makai Lemon potentially being the third wide receiver off the board, to me wasn't a negative Makai Lemon thing. This was a stop sleeping so much on Jordan Tyson. Like, I understand the injuries are a concern. We cannot double and triple count the injury concern. It has been accounted for.
Yep.
It has been noted. It has been noted by NFL teams. And if it were that much of an issue, Tyson would have stayed an extra year. He was the first wide receiver to declare for the NFL draft. He declared pretty much the day the season was over in college football for Arizona State.
So we will make our rookie rankings video, our final rookie rankings video here very soon, but I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek. Jordan Tyson ain't going anywhere, and he's going to be right there in that tier with Lemon and Tate. And we're going to keep them all. We've kept those guys in the same tier this whole time. We almost wavered. We almost did. Because it was so negative about Tyson recently and his hamstrings. I'm like, is there really something wrong with this kid? Well, now he's working out this Friday. And the buzz around NFL teams is very positive. Much different than Dynasty Twitter sphere, where it's like, oh, Jordan Tyson actually sucks. Mm-hmm. No, he doesn't. And we're going to co-sponsor that, and we'll go to our graves thinking that Jordan Tyson is not a bad prospect. Is he going to hit? Not guaranteed. But I think he's great. And I think that he has a super high ceiling as a playmaker in the NFL. And so we are pro Jordan Tyson here at Dynasty Domain, just so you know. So there you go. Put our teams back to back here. I was going to have them add like different graphics for each of us as we go. So let us know who's my guy team you prefer, obviously. And these are the guys that we're going to ride all the way through this draft process. And we're going to find out where they go, where they're drafted, what their draft capital is. 1.1 weeks from today. What is it? It's 1 week and 2 days. Okay, so like 1.2. You get the idea. 1.25. We 1.23. Next Thursday night.
It's about a week.
Yes, it's roughly a week, a little bit more than a week. We better see you there as well. We're gonna have our live draft show. We're bringing a ton of people here. Obviously, our whole team's coming into town to stream the draft show, but we're gonna have Paul from Pure Potential here as well. It's gonna be a lot of fun hearing from him. We're gonna have Ryan here, of course, like we did last year, giving us up to date, like in real time updates on the analytics and bakery stuff and things like that. It's gonna be a blast. So make sure you're here. We'll start streaming at 7:30. I think the draft starts at 8, right? We'll start streaming 30 minutes before the draft starts. I think that's at 7:30. So make sure that you're here for that. Make sure you're tuned in. The problem, obviously, last year was we were a little bit slow in the picks because we were on a delay. The delay is going away. We will be faster than networks this year. And if we don't, you can kill me. Drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate you guys. We love you. And we'll see you tonight with a live stream. And we'll see you with a video on Thursday. Peace.